returning to the building the A8 Plus. We have, if you can recall, finished the bottom half of it, and now we're about the x-axis, and once we've built that, we can then proceed on to the z-axis, or the top half, I suppose, of the frame. I've got my trusty cup of coffee for this one. We'll see if we end up knocking that over. You'll have to excuse any slurping or whatever that you hear, but you know, c'est la vie. What we need for this is the two, I suppose, the left and right parts, and we also need two of the rods, linear bearing, x-axis guiding rod, 400 millimeters. So let me just double check. Skip ahead. I need the z-axis stuff. So what's the z-axis stuff got? Does it actually talk about it? It must. It's talking about that there, but where's it telling me about the 472 millimeter x-axis? No, that's z-axis, 486. It's okay, that's just confirmed. It is the longer of the two that fits in the x-axis. So let's just get a wee look at that. So be a simple job, hopefully. Okay, that's us. That's the 481s there. These must be the 491s. This here has a threaded screw in it there, or a threaded bolt for the z-axis rod, and a bearing, and that is going to go together like this, with this on the end, and yeah, that'll be cool. So we need to fit a motor to this and a switch. I think this is telling me the switch must go up here. So if I, just reminds me, I never put the switch on the one on the base, the y-axis, but you know, that's not a big deal. That can be done later. These are all things that can be carried out when you're doing the electronics. I would maybe say that on this it might be to put the part on it now. Is it tell me which way? Right, so it wants, according to that there, it wants this here, and I need two, or I need 4 M3 20mm. Well, that'll be them then. Yeah, I basically need these, and I need them to, or do I need round ones? M3 20mm, and we can get our trusty free. Yeah, there we go, 20mm. And these only go in a little bit, so we can do them and then tighten them up with our umpteenth time that's dropped. Okay. Not the right one. We need something a wee bit bigger. I keep jamming the gloves in these under these screws. It's quite annoying. Now, I'm sure over there in the corner, with all the bag of cables, was switches. Here we go. I wonder if they're labelled. Nope. Doesn't matter though, because what we're going to do is it's telling me to put it in here. Yeah. Now that was a thing that's kind of a bit weird. Yeah, okay, see. So let's see if I can squeeze these back into the bag. Is this the one with the limit switch pulley? Oh, and it wants the one with the little roller on it. That's fine. And then we can try and squeeze these back into that bag. That's probably not going to happen too well. And we can put this here. I get a feeling that at some point I'm going to have to change that, because this is really close to that Z-axis, but we'll find out. KA2 3x12 cross recess countersunk screw. So we just need some really small screws. Are they in this bag? I don't believe that. No. Okay, so it's not those, it's not these, it's not those. Must be these. Okay. Assuming, yeah, it's these really small fiddly screws. So just need 2 of those. I can put the rest in there. There's also quite a few little black screws, which are for tightening things like the Z-axis connectors there, and I'm sure I'll find out what they're for soon enough. These here actually bite into the plastic. You can feel that they're really tight and they're biting in, so they're not going to go anywhere, and that's essentially what we're looking for. So your carriage, which will probably be like this, will come along and set that off, and it'll tell the machine that it's hit the x-axis limit. So yeah, that's that, and we have this motor all nice and tight. That, I'm already noticing something that's going to be a complete pain in the bum. I can see it. Is this recessed part here, which is great, but when you look inside, you've got a couple of holes for the well, for the belt to go in and then come back out. So that's going to be fiddly as hell just to get that in. And now we need to do this side. So we take our rod, there we go, and it looks like on the back of this there's a tightening nut, another one there, and if we stand this up on something flat, and hopefully that's all that we'll need, and then we will tighten that. So we need Allen key, and just let that bite in. You don't want to go super crazy, although you do really want it very tight, but you will just end up ripping these out, and nobody's going to have a good time if parts like that are broken. And then we're looking at how this is aligned, and we want to also now add our bearings. So the bearings here are 2 on, 1 on the bottom. This in that style. That'll be our hot end carriage. So it's looking quite good already. So the top part we know is because it's got the connector, the Z nut on there, and there. So let's just put this in and put that in. There we go, and put that on. That's us. And now we need to put this in. Now this wasn't exactly on the other side, so I don't know what it's going to be like on this one, because it does seem to me a little bit tight. Oh, now there we go. Already it started pushing that out. Bum. And I see actually in there it does have a couple of these wee recesses for similar to that, but it doesn't actually have the brass socket. So I don't know if so we've got this black slot here, whereas on the other side it was it's got the retaining nut inside a brass collar. I suppose we'll find out soon enough. And looking at this, I think that is it in as far as it can go. Yeah, that's quite good like that. And yeah, this is good. And so I suppose I could try fitting these retaining screws in. Does it actually mention it in that? It does. It does not. 1, 0, so yeah, I'm not actually seeing anything about that on this, but I've got a couple of them there. I don't think it would kill anyone to fit them, so I'll need this here, and because as far as I can see, everything else has its own retainer. Well, there's 4 of these, and that's making me get a little bit edgy about this. What I'll do just now is I'll tighten this up, tighten that up. No doubt I'll regret this because these will need to go in some way or another. It'll probably not be the right width, and that's not going to screw in there. So right, okay, I'm going to take a guess that that isn't actually what that's for. So I need to think. Now, I don't know if anyone's counting, but these have all got numbers on them. I've not been really paying attention too much to the numbers that are on the bag, because they've just kind of separated like the bits into their own bags, though they have at the same time tried to keep those bags numbers with the part that you're trying to assemble. We'll see how it goes. As for that, I don't know. You know, maybe when I come to fit up the x-axis, the z-axis, I will investigate putting a couple of screws from my back box of tricks in there. So the next part is putting this hot end in the extruder on there, and that's kind of how that's going to want to be, isn't it? And they're going to want you to screw that in there. They put it together and then want you to disassemble it, which is helpful. I suppose that makes it easier for packing, but it's good that I can actually just take that off, and hopefully, how did my free spanner go on? I got free spanner, and it should now inside this part here. In case you didn't see that, there is actually a screw that goes in here to retain that, stop it spinning, and it looks like we're going to be taking out this and the motor, but it's all on one metal part, which is great. That'll do me. I'm liking how this is quite tight around this point here, which means when the filament goes in, there's less room for the TPU, if you're using it, the flexible filament, to kind of escape out the side before it gets fed down that. So yeah, as ever, I've got high hopes for this. So I've just loosened that up a little bit, and we can have a better look at this hot end assembly. So as I said, you've got the throat, and you've got the heating block, and then you've got this here. And my concern is that this is, so from here to here, right, with the fan on it, should be quite good, you know, because you know, you're going to have a fan cooling this and handily cooling the motor, but then you're going to have here to here with the filament like just swelling up inside it and then coming out. Ideally, you only want the filament to kind of melt here and then coming out there. This might cause jams, you know, I don't know. We will find out when we use it. So they want me to attach this using M4 6mm hex screws, which are these here. And this is, I've got all those, and then I've got the 8mm ones, and then I'm sure there was another bag that had moved earlier that had more 6mm screws. But you know what? As long as I've got them and they're fitting into what they're supposed to be doing, that's all that matters. Okay. I'm thinking to myself, you see a lot of these videos on YouTube of, is it worth it? I'm hoping this is worth it. I don't doubt it. I was speaking to some people on forums and they absolutely love the thing. I think whether you love it or hate it is to do entirely with your expectations of what you're getting. This was, what, I think I paid £140 for this. I paid £100 for an old broken one, not this printer in particular. An example of a kind of higher end Trusha is 100 is between 600 and £1,000, and on all the bits that you're buying. Obviously a far more complicated machine. There's all sorts of sensors and stuff like that in it. I can add all that stuff to this. I'll not have much of a problem with that. So I've put these screws in, and now I need to do that other side, and that's going to require a bit of jiggery pokery, because my fingers are not that small. Okay, so swap into a different angle, but I'm basically placing these in their holes. I've aligned the washer with its brass threads, which is kind of handy because it means I can see them a lot easier. And I've aligned that with this here, and yeah, so how are we getting on with this? Oh, look at that, it doesn't, is that the, no, that's the wrong one. I'm hoping this reaches through there. Generally that's what these are for. Man, so close. I don't even know if that's, yeah. I'm hoping not to handle this. What I'd actually hoped was that I could use this and use it for the telescopic bit, which would be ideal, just to go. But I've actually just thought something there. This also, maybe not. Yeah, so I'd hoped for that, but I'm hoping one hand, wanting the other, and that's you. Oh, sorry. Ah! Yeah, I need to. No, that's not. There we go. So a little bit of fiddling here because that doesn't drop in here. What would be handy to have by your side is a set of long Allen keys and yeah, or hex keys or whatever the kids on the street call them. Okay, there we go. Good. I'm not going to put the hot end back on this until we're getting nearer the point of actually firing it up, because it'll give me a chance to look at it, and there's quite a few bits that need to be added to that hot end, such as the actual heating element and thermocouple, and it's going to be far easier for me to do it and show you when it's not inside this metal housing. And yeah, so that's how we're going to roll it, and you'll learn better from that, I think. I'm sure there's someone that can do this much quicker, and as I said, this wouldn't take that long if I was just building it and not having to show every little part, but this will hopefully help someone in the future, so it's worth it. And this bolt is just taking so long to tighten up. The coffee's getting cold. Okay. So that is looking good. That's us. That's another part done. It's all completed. We just now need to build the Z-axis for this to sit on, and that'll be us nearly at the point for firing up the printer. Thanks for joining me, and come back next time to see the rest of it.